Hey, what's going on, guys? You got TLR here, and this is going to be our team builder for week 11 of the PDL. We're veering, getting close to the end. Sorry, I tried to use a big word there, but I'm not that smart. We're getting really close to the end. Only 2 weeks left. And this week we are going to be playing my good friend Winmore and the Pittsburgh Steelix. So you can see his team right over on the right consists of really powerful Pokemon, lots of good setup sweepers, stuff like Slurpuff, Mega Charizard X, and Cloyster, which can all be a problem if they're given the chance to set up. So that is why we have the team we do. Let's just hop right into it. Oh, I should probably tell you which Pokemon you're looking at. Nidoking, Clefable, Cryogonal, Gengar, Gyarados, and Escavalier. Those are the 6 we're going to be bringing. And we've got a lot of really interesting sets this week. So we're going to start off with Nidoking. It's going to be Focus Sash with Sheer Force. So the Focus Sash is there because if Charizard gets the chance to set up, it's going to be very difficult to slow down. This Nidoking basically gives us a surefire answer to that Charizard. As long as the Focus Sash is intact, we live the hit, and we guarantee the KO in return with Earth Power. Bar it being like an extremely bulky set. However, if it's an extremely bulky set, we can actually beat it with a couple other things, which you'll see. But yeah, Earth Power is there because it's a nice ground type stab. Hits a lot of his Pokemon. Hits Cloyster neutrally. He doesn't really have much things to switch into it. And what Earth Power doesn't hit neutrally, we can hit super effectively with Ice Beam. So stuff like Tangrowth, Gliscor, and Rotom Mow, or Rotom Cut, don't want to switch into an Ice Beam. Sludge Wave is there because it's a good secondary stab. It does hit a lot of his team, including those 2 grass types I just mentioned, as well as the Sylveon and the Slurpuff. They all take a big damage from Sludge Wave. And then Toxic Spikes is there is because with the Toxic Spikes, we're able to poison his Pokemon, most notably Shedinja and Mega Charizard X. So as long as we can keep a layer of Toxic Spikes up, those things can't just win if put into a position to, because we'll be able to wear them down. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory spread, just max speed, max special attack. I didn't want to try to do a speed creep on this because if my opponent decides he wants to speed creep, like let's say he expects my Nidoking to only outspeed his Slurpuff because it doesn't need to outspeed anything else, so he has his Pokemon outspeed his Slurpuff by just a few points, so it can outspeed things that are built to outspeed Slurpuff. Then Nidoking can outspeed those anyway, so it's just built to outspeed everything possible in case my opponent decides to try to, you know, play that kind of game. And then of course max special attack gives me as much damage output as possible. Next up is going to be Clefable, so Underwear Clef, it's kind of necessary on this week's team just because he does have those powerful setup sweepers, and Underwear Clef is able to prevent those things from just straight up winning if they're given the chance to set up. So just getting into the moveset, we've got Moonblast, Knock Off, Wish, and Protect. So Moonblast is there because it's a good stab move and it does hit a lot of his team really hard. Knockoff is there because things that he would want to switch into Clef, so stuff like Assault Vest, Tangrowth, or Salazzle don't appreciate losing their items, so that being able to knock their items off is going to be good. And then Wish's Protect gives him some, gives her, I don't know what gender my Clefable is going to be, but it's going to have reliable recovery with Wish Protect, which can also help keep other Pokemon healthy. Like let's say Nidoking gets his sash broken by Stealth Rocks or something. If we can get rid of the Stealth Rocks, we can wish past to Nidoking. Well, actually, we can actually wish past to Nidoking whether the Stealth Rocks are up or not. But you get the idea. We can restore Nidoking's sash in case he loses HP without actually expending the sash. We can heal up Gengar, Escavalier, stuff like that. So that should be nice. And yeah, just bulky Pokemon altogether. We're going to be running physically defensive because the physical setup sweepers in Cloyster and Mega Charizard X are more problematic to my team than the special ones. So this will allow me to tank hits from those as well as possible while still giving me enough speed to, as you can see, take 2 Hydro Pumps from a timid Gorbis. Um, So yeah, if he tries to win with a Shell Smash Gorbis, we can take 2 Hydro Pumps from that and basically win 1v1 in return. So, yep, this is going to be our main defensive pivot. We're going to have to keep Clefable healthy because it's got a lot to check. But luckily, we also have other defensive pivots. Next up is going to be the Cryogonal, who's coming back. Rocking the leftovers and levitate, pretty standard. This week we're going to be running Ice Beam, Toxic, Rapid Spin, and Recover. Ice Beam is just a nice, powerful stab move. Hits a decent amount of his team. Stuff like Tangrowth, Rotom-Mow, and Gliscor don't want to take an Ice Beam because they're all threatened with big damage. Toxic is there for the things that Ice Beam wouldn't do very much against. So stuff like Sylveon don't want to get poisoned. So we can basically stall out some of his more bulkier Pokemon that he uses for a defensive role. So maybe like if he decides to run bulky Sylveon or something like that, we can stall that with Toxic. Rapid Spin is there because he does have possibility to run hazards. He has Gliscor, which can set up Stealth Rocks, and being able to Rapid Spin them away, especially without Rapid Spinning away my own Toxic Spikes, is going to be really nice because then that Shedinja again. We don't want to put ourselves into a position where we can lose to Shedinja. Now most of my Pokemon do have a way to hit it. But if we're put into a position where Shedinja can like set up a Sword Stance and then Shadow Sneak everything until nothing that can hit it is left. We basically want our Toxic Spikes up. That's going to be really nice to have in this match, and Rapid Spin prevents us from having to reset them up due to having to defog them away on our own terms. And of course, Recover gives us a reliable recovery, so he can continue to pivot for as long as possible. Pretty fancy spread, 236 HP, 52 defense, 4 special attack, 36 special defense, and 180 speed. So the speed allows us to outspeed Gliscor 100%, which is really nice because this can actually eat hits from Gliscor pretty well. As long as it's not running like Stone Edge, Gliscor would need Sword Stance to 2-hit KO as well. Stone Edge or Facade, and it would have to be running an offensive set to 2-hit KOs. So being able to switch into that pretty easily and then threaten with the outspeed and the Ice Beam, which has a really good chance to one-hit KO even if he's max in special defense and HP. So Cryogonal, just a nice answer to Gliscor. The Spidef, as you can see, allows us to take 2 choice specs, Rotom, Cut, Thunderbolts 100% of the time. So we can easily check that thing as well. And then the rest is dumped into defense to allow him to switch into stuff like Sylveon easier. Let's say Sylveon is running Psyshock. That could do a decent chunk to Cryogonal because it's targeting his weaker physical defense. But having a little bit of Spidef investment, defense investment allows us to switch into moves like that easier. And then 4 into special attack just to use that extra 4 EVs to our advantage. So next up is going to be Gengar, running probably the most interesting set of the week and probably of the entire season so far out of any of my Pokemon. We're going to be running Assault Vest Gengar this week, so of course he has to be Curse Body, that's his only ability, but his moveset's going to be Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Psychic, and Hidden Power Ice. Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb are nice stabs. He doesn't have a lot of good switch-ins to Shadow Ball, and the things that do switch into Shadow Ball, stuff like Specially Defensive Gliscor, Assault Vest Tangrowth. The Assault Vest Tangrowth gets hit by Sludge Bomb, Hidden Power Ice is Gliscor, and then Psychic is there for the Salazzle. So again, another pretty fancy set, and as you can see, with this set, Flamethrower from a choice spec Salazzle will never 2-hit KO my Gengar, which is really good because we don't have a lot of good switch-ins to Salazzle. And then Psychic is a guaranteed OHKO in return. So this is going to be a main Salazzle check, running a bulkier Gengar, which is, I think, pretty funny. But let's hope it can put in a lot of work, because if Gengar goes down too soon, then Salazzle might be able to nasty plot and win, and that won't be fun. But yeah, Gengar, Assault Vest, LeBron coming off the bench again. So let's hope he puts in a lot of work. Gyarados is going to be our next Pokemon. This is going to be a Pokemon that hopefully can win, but we're definitely going to have to put ourselves into a position because as you can see, we're going to be running the Rest Talk set again with Crunch as our only attacking move, and this is because he only has one Dark Resistant Sylveon, and if we can weaken the Sylveon, basically Gyarados can just set up and crunch everything. So, of course, Gyarados, with Intimidate, Moxie's not going to be doing us very much good. Intimidate helps us set up on stuff like a Charizard X, or it can even just help us by weakening the Charizard X's damage output. Going to be 244 HP, 4 attack, 68 defense, 12 special defense, 180 speed with a careful nature. So an extremely bulky set this week, and as you can see here, with this set, if my opponent decides to run a Leaf Storm, Rotom Cut, if he's running Rotom Cut, he'll probably have Leaf Storm, but if he decides to run no special attack invested Rotom Cut, like a bulkier Rotom Cut, Leaf Storm from it will never 2-hit KO after the special attack drop. So as you can see, it does a maximum of 132 before the drops, and after the drops, hold on. Oh, after the drops, it never 2-hit KO. Sorry, I having a little trouble there. Yeah, so Rest Talk allows us to basically set up on stuff like Rotom Cut, bulkier Rotom Cut. Tangrowth can't 2-hit KO us, a bulky Sylveon can't 2-hit KO us. So basically, if he can get rid of all his Pokemon that can do over 50%, so like his offensive Pokemon, Gyarados basically just sets up and wins thanks to Rest Talk. Yep, that's going to be Gyarados. Again, really bulky because I guess we're running a lot of bulk this week. We want to be able to tank hits. Last up is going to be Escavalier running the Occa Berry this week. He does have quite a few powerful fire types on his team. This also helps us in case he decides to tech a random hidden power fire on Tangrowth or something like that. Overcoat is there specifically for the Tangrowth because this is basically going to be our Tangrowth switch-in. Thanks to Occa Berry, he eats up hidden power fires. Overcoat means he can't be sleep powdered, and then Mega Horn does a ton of damage. So Iron Head is there because he does have a couple of areas that don't want to get hit by Iron Head. It's also 100% accurate. It does good damage to especially defensive Gliscor, stuff like that. Drill Run is there because of those fire types. As I said before, he has the Mega Charizard X and the Salazzle, and neither of them really want to take a Drill Run. While Salazzle gets O-Code, Charizard doesn't, but Charizard does take a good chunk, so if we can hit that thing, like let's say we're behind a substitute, which is something that we are going to attempt to set up on Tangrowth. So if we switch this into Tangrowth, Tangrowth doesn't threaten a lot of damage. We can sub up on it, and as hopefully we make him want to switch, we can substitute and then hit whatever his switch is hopefully. That is the goal. But yeah, Drill Run doing good damage to Charizard X as well. So the spread, nothing too fancy. 228 HP, 244 attack, and 36 speed def. This allows us to take a flamethrower from Salazzle after Stealth Rocks 100%. As long as it's not a boosting item like Life Orb or Choice Specs. So let's say he wants to run Z move on this, which is completely a possibility. That will allow us to take the flamethrower 100%, and then Oko in return with a Drill Run. So that's going to be the team. An extremely bulky team this week. A lot of sets that you probably wouldn't see very often, like Assault Vest Gengar and Focus Sash Nidoking, but hopefully the team is able to put in the work it needs to. My opponent is definitely very strong, one of the best in the league, and hopefully I can give you guys a good fight. I do have Top Cut locked at this point, but I still want to at least give my opponents a challenge, even if I don't come out on top. So I will see you tomorrow with the battle. It should be coming out the day after this goes up. And thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll see you guys later.